Lost Faith monologue. Today's date is Thursday, the 11th of December 2025. It's around about 1 p.m. It's cloudy. The clouds look somewhat natural. It's pleasant enough. There's a little bit of blue sky. So, what am I frustrated with today? I was just thinking about Klaus Schwab said the world is going to get more angry. How can he have an insight into the whole world and what sort of emotion is going to be expressed? What does he know that we don't? So, more angry. I can definitely feel that. And I definitely think there's more people becoming somewhat aware that something odd is in the air. You can feel it. If you go to, say, a football match back in the day when, there were pretty hostile environments, football stadiums, and you would go there, and afterwards, when you're talking about the atmosphere, you would maybe say it just felt like it was going to kick off at any time, like it was on a knife edge. You feel it in the atmosphere, feel the energy. And equally, you might go into a pub and it might not be the most uplifting clientele, let's just put it that way. Hostile, I suppose. But you would go into a pub and let's just say there was an atmosphere in there, and you would say the same thing. It just felt negative. It felt like something could kick off at any point, or it just felt a bit uneasy. I just wanted to get out of there. Can't put your finger on any actual evidence of the five senses, but you have a sixth sense. And yeah, I can feel it. And there's one or two people who are somewhat aware or open-minded, a little bit more in tune with their emotions, are picking up on this as well. But it's not just anger, it's infantile levels of behaviours as well. And it's almost like you feel like you're the only sane person in an insane world. People's behaviours don't make sense. There's no logic or common sense. People seem to be angry. Yeah, they do. Bitter, frustrated, taking out on other people, totally divided in their own heads, confused, lost. Picking up on this, as are other people. And when you have clarity and you're surrounded by confusion, this is exactly what I'm feeling. It feels like you're the only person who's actually awake. And by awake, I just mean, everybody else is in a dream-like state, going through the motions, and you're actually trying to wake people out of their slumber and actually do something constructive with your own life. And by that I just mean, make effective decisions which are going to reap rewards. And I don't just mean, I don't mean financially at all. I mean any sort of reward, moral, satisfaction, or helping others achieve something outward, that sort of satisfaction that you get from helping others reach their goals. Everybody else is just wandering around routinely, going about their dead end business just to survive. And they might have the odd holiday to escape the emptiness of their life, but it's temporary. You can't escape forever. And anger, just things like people don't get their own way. That's petty anger. Two types of anger: righteous and petty. Righteous is when you're angry because of an injustice, either on yourself or on another. I've recently been extremely angry on behalf of a friend who's been shafted over at work, and I felt as much anger, almost as much anger as what I would feel if it was one of my own family members or me, because it's an injustice and she's innocent. And don't get me wrong, don't get the wrong idea, there's not somebody who's been prosecuted for something that they haven't done. She's been wrongly judged in applying for promotion. But everybody in that dog who's actually taking any time to look can see that she's been wronged. It's not ego, it's a rational conclusion to come to. But anyway, so where was it? Anger. So that's righteous anger. If you're wronged, if there's an injustice, a real injustice, something that is really going to affect you, like not being recognised and acknowledged and given the promotion that you deserve, it's going to affect not just your sense of self-worth, especially when you know the decision's wrong, it's even worse. So it's going to affect your sense of self-worth, and it's going to affect your comfort levels at home and your family. So there's an internal and an external harm, all because of somebody's ego, somebody else's ego who wants to say no when they could quite easily say yes. So that's righteous anger. And the anger creates an energy, an emotion, energy in motion. It creates an energy, and that energy needs to go somewhere. that energy needs to go somewhere, and quite often it's buried, which is what creates, or certainly helps contribute to anger issues. So it's either buried, or you might get it out in a punch bag, for example, go for a run, or you actually do something, activate yourself and be an activist to try and put that wrong right, if you can, if there's an avenue. So that's righteous anger. It's appropriate. It's the appropriate emotion, and should never ever be demonized. Anger is demonized in our modern, socially engineered, mind-controlled civilization. The other type of anger is petty anger. Petty anger is when the only harm that's being caused is to your pride. Your pride. Or your ego. It's your ego identity. Your ego identifies with your pride. And this type of anger is, blimey, you definitely see this in the left-wing extremists who actually call one of the factions of that is actually called pride. They're not exactly hiding it. So, hurty words, for example, you hurt my pride. I identify with my ego and all of the other labels the social engineers have given me to graft onto my identity. But the easiest example, or the simplest example to get your head around petty anger is when your arrogant friend who thinks he's above everybody else in the pecking order, who thinks his job and his money and his status and his house and his car, he thinks that is him. That is his identity. That's his ego. And as a result of all those material things, he is above anybody. You haven't got that, you haven't got that, you haven't got that, you haven't got that, and you haven't got that. Or you're lower down than me, certainly. I'm going to judge you by your material gains. Nothing else. And then that arrogant prat who's got no emotional intelligence can never admit when they're wrong, and can never admit when they're being taken for a ride by somebody else who they perceive as a friend. When that arrogant tosspot walks into a bar and there's a number of people waiting to get served, if he is not served before them, either through his perceived level of importance or through his arrogance and selfish behaviour of barging in slowly but aggressively, if he does not get served when he thinks he should get served, which is first, then anger, frustration, pettiness, walk out, I'm going to go somewhere else, I'm not going in there, I'm not getting served quick enough. That is petty anger. And that is childish. So, most people, their anger issues are from a lack of emotional regulation. like a child. They don't understand their own emotions. How on earth are they going to understand those of others? That's like saying, I've got no idea what my opinion is on anything. I've got no idea about anything about me. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know anything. How are they ever going to understand what's going on inside somebody else's mind? What their opinions are, what their purpose is, what their motivations are? I probably didn't even need to make that analogy. It's obvious when I said somebody who doesn't understand their own emotions isn't going to understand those of others. It's alien. And when you haven't got emotional regulation, you get angry at the most stupidest of things, petty things. You think that's anger. You think what's coming out of you is anger. It's not. It's pettiness. It's childish tantrums. It's not real anger. It doesn't motivate you to do anything other than go somewhere else where somebody might stroke your ego. Yes, you look tall and your coat looks very businesslike, and I can see your car key ring hanging out of your pocket accidentally, and what lovely alligator skin shoes you have, sir. Is that a Swiss watch? You need serving next. Let's go somewhere else until I'm treated how I deserve to be treated. It's childish. It's a lack of awareness. Total lack of awareness. Total lack of self-awareness. Awareness of those around you. Awareness of your own emotions. Awareness of other people's emotions. And lack of emotional regulation. It's a child. It's exactly what a child is going through pre-adolescence. And that's the sort of anger that I see in the world. People not getting their own way. Road rage is an easy one to spot. Getting angry at the most trivial of things, which are more often than not genuine mistakes on the part of other people. Sometimes it's ignorance, but they can't discern the difference between the two. All they see is, you have inconvenienced me and I'm important. And then the road rage comes out and they feel safe because they're in this metal thing, and the ego always comes out. The chimp, I like to call it, the chimp always comes out when it's safe. 9 times out of 10, these road rage zombies, if it was in the street, they wouldn't be so aggressive. The chimp would likely stay in its box. And this is caused, so that's one example, and it's the same at work. And people want to get their own way and they can't. And it's hard work. If people just don't lie down and let you walk all over them, whether it's what you're demanding of them or whether it's an idea that you're trying to float, you should be able to influence people. If it's a good idea, you'll be able to influence. Use your skills, communication skills, debating skills. If you really understand the idea, and if you've gone through and rigorously tested it, even if it's just in your head, you've put it through all the different scenarios using your imagination, and you're confident that this idea is going to come out trumps, then you can easily influence people. But that takes a lot of work, hard work, a lot of work by the brain, a lot of work by the neocortex, a lot of imagination, a lot of thinking power, a lot of energy, a lot of will. And the brain just won't do it if it's a lazy brain. And a lazy brain is quite simply, during adolescence, brain, I think it's during adolescence, I'm sure it is that period. Yeah, it is. The brain starts to do what's called pruning, just like a tree. You prune it, you get rid of all of the branches that are dead, and you leave it healthy, and then it's more efficient. It takes in the water out of the ground and the light from the leaves and does its thing more efficiently. It's not trying to push energy, light energy or water, to parts of the trees which are dead and a waste of time. It's an efficiency exercise, and the brain does exactly the same thing during adolescence. It doesn't cut them off. So these neural pathways, it prunes them if they're not being used. And it doesn't mean that but it's not permanent. It can grow back, just like a branch will grow back. A tree will grow back as long as there's enough left of it. So when these neural pathways are pruned during sort of mid to late stage adolescence, what the brain is doing is, well, I don't need that, so let's save energy. Now, if your brain is pruned because you've never used it, you've never used certain parts of it during adolescence, and then you've never put that right in early adulthood and beyond, you've never grown those pathways back. The brain it will grow the pathways back, it will create the pathways again, because the brain is plastic, it has plasticity. It just means it's, it can be remolded, reshaped, reignited. So if your brain is pruned and you've never, ever, ever grown it back to anywhere near its full potential, then that's what I mean. It's a lazy brain. It's not actually lazy, it's working hyper efficiently. It's only doing what it absolutely needs to do. It's not going to do any more, because it's been working like that and operating like that for however long. It takes a lot of awareness and will to start thinking, which in a way that ignites these pathways again. So anyway, so when I say a lazy brain, I just mean a well pruned brain. It can't think, hasn't got the energy. So yeah, when somebody doesn't get their own way, going back to work, a work sort of analogy, so they can't float an idea because they haven't done the work, they haven't tested it, and they haven't got any influencing skills, or they haven't got the right communication skills. What they end up with is, it's my idea and I want it. And they don't want to persuade you because they're lazy. It's laziness. And because they're attached to their ego and their idea must be right, because that's what the ego tells them. Then anybody who challenges the idea, even if it's a legitimate, rational, constructive challenge, shot down. And that idea gets implemented eventually. And people stop trying, they stop fighting. Because they haven't got the energy to fight. And it's work. Who cares? Still get paid at the end of the day. And so you create and so everybody becomes lazy, either through choice or necessity. And you create this total lazy team of people if you're the leader and that's your mentality. But everybody's obedient, so you think you're great. You think that every decision that you make is amazing because everybody agrees with it. What you've done is you've kind of battered them down to the point where they submit, and that submission you think is agreement. So they get angry. Anyway, going back to if you challenge them, they get angry. That's petty anger. And that's what I see everywhere in society, in the workplace, family members, not my immediate family, as in my soulmate and my daughter. That's the only immediate family I care to consider. But yeah, the wider family, a lack of patience, because patience is connected with all of this as well, and it all comes from stress. And even going back to the adolescence thing, if there's a lot of stress and confusion, it can shut down the development of the neocortex, and the adolescent won't emerge out the other side a healthy, functioning human being with a functional human brain. They stay trapped in the stress response, which is only the left side of the neocortex is somewhat operational, but it's working in conjunction with the stress response system, which ultimately is the R complex part of the brain, which actually enables you to carry out fight or flight decisions. And that stress doesn't have patience, that mind doesn't have patience, because it needs everything now, which is understandable, because when you're in a genuine fight or flight situation, like a grizzly bear, you're not going to sit there patiently and see, let's just see how this pans out. I'm not sure what my decision is yet. And most of what people need to do is get on to the next thing on their list. It's not a grizzly bear. It's just the next thing on their list of things to do at work or in their life. Highly stressed people have no patience, and they are easily flipped into fight or flight, which is become their ego. The sort of ego has latched on to people who don't respect you, don't get out of your way, and all the rest of it. So that's petty anger, and that's where it comes from. And how did Klaus know this? And so I agree with him. I totally agree with him. Well, you don't plunge the world into the best part of 2 years of emotional and physical abuse and violence, threats of violence, coercion, shame, guilt, shame, gaslighting, psychological manipulation, for 2 years during the 2020 fire. You don't do that to the whole, or pretty much the whole of the human race, without expecting trauma, complex PTSD. And the thing about complex PTSD is people don't know what the root cause is because it's complex. It's not like somebody goes to war, shoots somebody, kill them, and then come back with PTSD and they know fine well what the trauma is. It's not like that. It's complex. It can be sustained and vary in levels. It can be one thing one day, another thing the next, but it's sustained trauma. And these people, they won't even know that they have this trauma because they're so unconscious. And most people, my experience, went through the 2020 PSYOP like making light of it. That's what people do when they're scared. When they don't want to look into the darkness, they make fun of it. It was a jolly, it's funny, when I'm going to get back to normal. I haven't seen Granny this Christmas. I hope you're following the rules, mind. Like a good little slave. I know it's dragging on, isn't it? But you know, it's a small price to pay for the greater good, isn't it? I mean, what's a mask? You know, what's 6 feet? You know, what's not seeing your family for 2 years, or the best part of, even when they're dying, not going to their funeral. It's nothing, man. You just grin and bear it. The good old English way. Bollocks. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Everybody deals with it in different ways. But that is not normal. It's not a normal set of circumstances for a human being to be placed in. Abuse. And then, on top of the psychological abuse, is the physical assault. You know, where everybody was punched in the arm, if you know what I mean, without that consent, without that informed consent. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave informed consent. And if I said to you, I'm just going to give you a little punch in the arm, it won't hurt. A little jab in the arm, it won't hurt. I just want to test something out. I just want to experiment and test something out. And they said, yeah. And well, they might say, well, how hard? Oh, and then you might demonstrate, like on the desk or something, on the door, just that hard. And then there's a level of informed consent. But if you just said, I'm just going to punch you and jab you in the arm, is that okay? And they just went, yeah, no problem, I trust you. And you fucking whacked them as hard as you could. They'd be the first to complain. And that's, so if you give consent, but you were misled, then, you know, that's assault. It's probably a far end of a fart way to go to try and put that into context, but you know what I'm saying. Nobody gave informed consent because nobody knew what that punch in the arm was ultimately going to do. Nobody knew, nobody knows. Well, somebody does know, but nobody's told us. So, that's the assault. And the stress. Everybody's a lot sicker. Death rates, excess deaths are up. Sick. Stress causes sick. Stress causes the blood to pump to the extremities and away from vital organs and away from the brain. So when people are suffering disease of vital organs, heart attacks, strokes, whatever else, then that makes sense. Especially if they're under some additional stress from whatever that toxic crap was that they injected into themselves. And then the brain, well, we know that it crosses the brain barrier, but also the stress, as I say, pumps blood away, generally speaking, from the brain. The only part of the brain that you need in that scenario is the R complex, and part of the mammalian brain, I suppose. Again, I've just generalised in here, but it's not pumping blood to the neocortex. You're not going to have a philosophical debate when you're faced with a grizzly bear. You're not going to think about deep moral philosophy, the meaning of life. Why are we here? Where did we come from? Where do we go? Should I really make this decision? Is it the best thing to do for me? But also, is it the best thing to do in terms of, does it have any moral consequences? They're not the sort of conversations you're going to be having with yourself or anybody else when you're in stress mode. And people who are constantly in stress mode, they look for escapism. And I'll end with, so that's Klaus Schwab, and that's my unpacking of what I believe he means. But that's my observation, anyway, of what's going on. And I'm going to finish with everybody's favourite occultist, Aleister Crowley, who spoke about the coming Eon of Horus, or the Age of Horus, the Age of the Sun. And, this kind of coincides with the end of the Age of Pisces and the beginning of the Age of Aquarius. But in his writings, it was the Eon of Horus. Horus is the sun or the child. And Crowley said that during the Age of Horus, people will become more childlike.